Hi, everyone. It's Andrea Warnick here. I just wanted to share a few tips for talking to kids, particularly young kids, about death and dying. I find that specifically when kids are young, we're even more likely to try to skirt around the language of death and dying and instead use euphemisms or try to soften it in some way. And while it's often well intended, I find that it's often also misguided. Sometimes people will use language such as "we lost grandpa." Kids lose things all the time and then find it again. I can't tell you how many kids I've had jump up after hearing words like that, being like, "I'll find him, I'll find him." Sometimes those people will say, "Mom left us," which for kids who often a big fear is abandonment can really translate to the person made a decision to leave them. And that's why I really encourage, and there's a lot of literature to back this up as well, using the honest, direct language of death and dying, right? Grandpa didn't leave us, Grandpa died. That means his body, including his head, doesn't work anymore and will never work again. I really encourage seizing that teachable moment, the dead bird that we find on the side of the road and things, to teach kids about death before someone close to them has died. But we don't always have that opportunity, or it's not necessarily on our radar. And so when the situation arises, it's happened to somebody in their world, it can be really hard to figure out what language to use and how to talk about it. And that's where, again, I really encourage just calling it what it is, death and dying. Help them understand what that means, right? These are even the 2-year-olds, the 3-year-olds that we're working with or supporting in our families. It means a body, and including the head, has stopped working, will never work again. It doesn't feel anything anymore. The person's body is not cold. It is not hot. I'm really specifically talking about the body. I don't say mom doesn't feel anything or mom doesn't see anything, because I'm really focusing on the physical part, not necessarily the existential or the belief systems. And we really want to reinforce, too, that it's not the child's fault, because a lot of times kids think that they're responsible for everything that happens around them in the world. The younger kids are, the more repetition we're going to need, right? So we might have the conversation and think that they understood it, and then have them asking us the same questions, days or weeks or months later. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you answered wrong the first time. Just be willing to repeat the messaging, use the same language. There's some great books out there as well. When Dinosaurs Die by Brown and Brown. I use that for kids as young as 2, 3 years old, and just read the pages that are applicable. Lifetimes by Brian Melanie is a very gentle way to introduce the concept of mortality and death and dying to even young kids. So I encourage, never using the book as the conversation, but certainly a way to support the conversation, and open up bigger conversations. I hope this has been helpful.